This is Audible.
Aethon Audio presents Primal Hunter, Book 14. Written by Zogarth, performed by Travis Baldry. Previously on the Primal Hunter. Last time we left Jake, he was going on an adventure with Sandy straight to the moon. Just like the current AI stock bubble, which is only growing due to rampant vendor financing and ever-inflating promises. But I digress. On the way to the moon, Jake spent time chilling inside of Sandy, who'd kindly gone as far as to set up an alchemy lab for Jake to do a bit of crafting on the way. Preoccupied with alchemy, and with Sandy's ability to quickly traverse the cosmos, it didn't take long before the pair arrived on the moon, ready to explore. After exploring around a bit, having found nothing more than a few elementals, the two finally decided to check out the far side of the moon. No, not the dark side of the moon. Contrary to common belief, the side of the moon we never see on Earth is actually brighter than the side we see, as it receives far more sunlight. We only call it the dark side because we can't directly observe it, thus leaving us in the dark about what's there. In conclusion, The Dark Side of the Moon is nothing more than an awesome album by Pink Floyd. Getting to the far side of the moon, Jake and Sandy quickly realized that the moon did indeed have something more interesting to offer. The mana density there was higher, and before long they discovered an entire forest of weird trees. Exploring the forest, they soon encountered odd loonwood creatures that didn't quite feel right, making them both wonder what was going on. Once the two of them had had some fun walking and wiggling on the moon for the first time, Jake started hunting while learning that the forest was seemingly caused by something called a wood meteor, a giant ball of life energy and wood that could apparently give birth to an entire forest. Meanwhile, Sandy decided they wanted to explore the interior of the moon. Jake happily hunted away and farmed a bit of experience while Sandy got deeper and deeper into the celestial object until they finally got close to the center. There, Sandy discovered the cruel truth about the moon. It was haunted. And not just a small haunting either, but haunted by a B-grade creature known as a Ghost Vine Sovereign. Sandy tried to run while warning Jake to get away from the moon, and while Jake relatively easily escaped due to the warning, Sandy wasn't as lucky and died. Fortunately, Sandy was Sandy, and the item that was totally not an egg they'd given Jake a few books ago shockingly turned out to be an egg that the space worm could revive from if slain. Through that, Jake got his worm buddy back, and together they decided that perhaps this trip to the moon had best be cut short, as taking on a B grade was still a bit too early. So also, just like the current AI stock bubble, this trip to the moon didn't end well for anyone involved and could have gone way worse if Jake and Sandy hadn't pulled out when things got too hairy. In the rest of the multiverse, Yip of Yore continued his preparations to take on the Viper by confronting another Primordial, the star-seizing Titan, and through that confrontation created the legend of having a sword that could cut even the most durable Primordial. Back with Jake, he finally returns to Earth after dragging Sandy through space for most of the way, as the recently deceased worm wasn't quite ready to make the entire trip themselves. After he had sent Sandy off to the Order of the Malefic Viper to recuperate, Jake visited Arnold to get a newly upgraded nanoblade guitar before he headed off to enjoy some alchemy, before he was forced into something he truly dreaded: a meeting. Lots of talking that wasn't super important to this recap later, just stuff about Prima Guardian preparation and whatnot. Jake and others began construction of the special Minaga dungeon on Earth, possibly made possible by the challenge dungeon rewards in Nevermore. Afterwards, lots of other minor things happened, such as Jake renewing his union oath with Sylphie, talking with Vesperia about personal insecurities, having Vesperia show off her power a bit, and so on and so forth. Pretty much all the usual build-up before the big Prima Guardian system event was set to begin. The only thing left was a quick World Congress called by Miranda, where all the factions met to discuss plans to deal with the Prima Guardian. After that, Jake went and did some final preparations, like fetching his now upgraded guitar from William and having a talk with William, who had been scouting Ell'Hakan's planet, and realized the place was seriously fucked up in the karma department. Something that got Jake curious, and luckily for him, perhaps he will soon get a chance to learn more in this book. Anyhow, soon it was time for the Prima Guardian to arrive. Riding in like a meteorite, Prima vessels crashed down on populated planets all throughout the newly integrated 93rd universe. In the Milky Way, a large coalition of planets that decided to work together to handle the event, a decision that was made in a prior book where factions could choose to face the Prima Guardian alone or as a coalition, formed an alliance with Ell'Hakan at its center. Meanwhile, Earth had Jake and all the other natives from there, So it was no surprise to anyone who had the advantage in the competition for who would finish off their Prima Guardian